The official agenda today is to have an overview of the most disruptive bring your own device technologies. I suspect you've done quite a lot of that through today. Look at the comparison between advantages and disadvantages of BYOD and security. Is there more to it than encryption? And is there anything that established management, information security management systems can do to help deal with some of the risks that, that we see in tackling mobile device security? So mostly management, and I come at most of these issues from a management perspective rather than a technical perspective. Mostly management thinks of mobile devices as being mobile phones, iPads, and more recently, but perhaps more boringly, smartphones. That's kind of it. We think the smartwatches, wearable technology, we've kind of heard of because some young person in our organization or in our household has got a watch. I'm officially very cool to the young people in the technology team because I've got a wearable piece of computer gadgetry which is pretty useless, but it's very cool. The reality, when you think about it, is that mobile technology is much more complicated than just those devices. Yes, it starts with mobile phones, pads of one sort or another, and a whole range of wearable technology, but there's also a cloud into which information goes. And as a number of celebrities have discovered, having information on your mobile devices and in the cloud is not necessarily the smartest thing to do, particularly if you're not wearing much at the time. In parallel to the arrival of mobile devices, of course, has been the arrival of e-book readers. And some of you may remember what the first e-book readers looked like back 12 or so years ago. They were complicated, difficult, irritating things that weighed too much, a bit like early mobile telephones. In order to get a book onto them, you had to find some site that sold books and download it through your workstation, and then you had complicated stuff plugged into it with a stand that you'd put the e-book reader in it, and then you'd have an e-book in it, and once you had two, it was kind of full. And people said to me, I was an early adopter of e-books, I thought they were cool. People said to me, what will come of e-books? It's a complete waste of time. You can't do anything with them. They're difficult and complicated to use. And now we have the Kindle, which is wiping out publishers around the world, making life difficult for them. It's completely disruptive. And of course, I hear people saying the same thing of wearable technology. What can you do with wearable technology? A watch is a waste of time because you can tell the time on it, and you can get the weather, and you can maybe find out that you're not that well, which your spouse might want to know, but you don't particularly want to know. So why would you have wearable technology? Well, you've got Dropbox, a good way of moving information around. The Kindle Fire did its stuff. You've got a whole host of social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, TwitPics, which is the bit of Twitter which enables you to post pictures quite easily. You've got Pinterest, is another easy place when you're on the move to access information, pictures, and make it all available. Yahoo, of course, has come. Who would want to watch videos on the web? I remember people saying some 5 or 6 years ago. And now, if you don't have a collection of videos up on Yahoo, nobody really knows how to operate your technology. USB sticks have been around for a little while. Data cards have been around for a while. And of course, the more recent technology are things like the LiveScribe. How many of you have come across LiveScribe as a piece of technology? So it's a cunning piece of technology. It's got a very old-fashioned piece of technology called a book with paper in it, and it comes with a pen, which gentleman over there has got. Comes with a pen which enables you to write, and it collects what you're writing as you write and can transmit it to your mobile device by Bluetooth. Terrific piece of equipment. Who would conceivably want one of those? Because we all type, don't we, directly into our pad or into our workstation. So we've got a growing range of technologies which work with one another and support one another. The use of mobile phones on the go as cameras has become much more useful and interesting because you can upload and share photographs through Twitter, through Facebook, through iCloud, even though you're sharing them often with people you didn't know you were going to share them with. Part of the mobile technology disruption, of course, are apps. app stores. Some of them have apps that you want and which are safe to have. Others of them have apps which you might want, but actually you really shouldn't have because they bring lots of extremely nasty things with them. But App Store is a really fundamental part of, as I see it, the mobile technology environment. And then we've got other technologies like 4G coming along, 5G following rapidly after that. What is 4G and 5G going to do to the take-up of mobile technology, assuming that Vodafone and others can get to the point where when they say you've got outstanding coverage in this area, you really do get some. We've got cryptocurrencies, there's the Internet of Things, and people begin to talk now about how interesting it might be to drive up alongside a motor car and hack into its electronic engine system and crash it off the road, because technically you should be able to do that. Machine vision, optical computing, wearable computing, all of them part of the huge amount of change being driven by the ability of chip manufacturers to put more and more and more on less and less and less in the way of silicon. And that's a kind of, that's Wikipedia's version of what a disruptive technology graph looks like. Disruptive technologies are things that come along and they start off looking as though they're fairly unimportant, like wearable computers, watches, electronic watches with batteries that run out every 3 days, e-books that you can't possibly imagine why you would want to use. There were times I was talking to one of my salespeople today, and what I'm about to say will tell you that he's not that young anymore. He said he remembered selling internet connections just in the early days of the internet, when you'd hope to get £1,000 for a URL. And people were saying, it's a really interesting idea of having a website, but I just went onto this internet thing and nobody else is selling flowers on the internet. Why would I want to be on the internet? And that's, the internet has now become fundamental to how we all think and operate. And with the burgeoning and wide use of mobile technology has come the development of internet and mobile threats. For those of you who want to know how to hack a mobile phone and don't have it to hand, there's a website that you can go to, easymobilephonesspying.com, how to hack a mobile phone. And there is a number of websites you can go to. You don't have to be technically minded, and that's one of the important things when you think about security. You don't have to be technically minded anymore to be able to access modern technology. You just have to be able to read and carry out instructions. Phony cell towers reported a short while ago, hacking phones in Western Australia. Terrific. Hackers, criminals putting up phone towers designed to capture mobile phone signals so that they could access the data being sent unencrypted through the mobile phones. Mobile phone malware, who would worry about mobile phone malware? For a long time in the world of anti-malware, it's been one of those things where people go, yeah, so you've got a phone anti-malware, terrific, we don't have malware on our phones. In much the same way as for so long, it's always been true, hasn't it, that Apple devices don't have vulnerabilities. And that's why you never need to have updates for Apple equipment, because they're made perfectly every single time. Unlike Microsoft, which we know simply makes things that are no good. That is correct, isn't it? Credential dumps. Personal information gained through phishing and malware. Google went to press today admitting that a certain number, which adds up to a figure with a number of noughts after it, of Gmail credentials have been found in a number of credential dumps on the internet, and saying it's obviously not their fault. Their security is outstandingly good, but people have been subject to phishing and malware attacks, which has enabled criminals to gather hundreds of thousands, millions of credentials. And the fact that people tend to use the same username and password across multiple services and multiple devices makes it dead easy for a hacker to go, well, I've got this actress's username and password that she uses on her telephone. What's the bet it will get me into her cloud store and into a whole bunch of other things? And what's the bet that there might be something worth leaking that sits on there? Losing a device, for executives, I'm sure for you guys, losing a device is a complete disaster. You get to the point where your whole life depends on your mobile phone or your iPad. You get your email there, you've stored the key details about the current financial performance or the acquisition you're making. It's how you keep in touch with everybody, and suddenly it's gone. Most IT organizations, as far as I can see, haven't yet got focused on how do we get a replacement device out to our executives when they're on the other side of the world in a different time zone and they need it in half an hour because they're kind of lost. Mobile device loss. Remember, information security is not just about confidentiality and integrity, it's about availability as well, availability of information and devices. And mostly information security or IT teams look at the security aspects, the confidentiality and integrity stuff, not how do we make sure that we're still going to be able to access the information that we've got on there. Cloud hacks, that's been in the news. Man-in-the-middle attacks, more and more intercepting emails. That's kind of what the masts in Western Australia are about. If you can intercept an email and get into the middle of an unencrypted email, you can pose as the sender. You can take information out of the email and use it in ways that you might want to. Much more legitimately, of course, you could go to a website like this organization, which sells mobile and computer monitoring software. It's terrific for anybody who has a wayward spouse. This is where you would go. It downloads software which it claims you have a look on the site, extremely difficult to spot, hides itself very well on the person's phone. Ideal, it says, for keeping track of your kids. Can't think of any particular groups of people who might want to keep track of kids other than parents. Can you? But here's a place in which perfectly legitimately you can download mobile and computer monitoring software that the user won't be able to identify is on their device. The police are not pursuing them. It's a completely legitimate business. So mobile computing is much more than just mobile devices. And it's much more when you think about the single incident, a compromise of, say, an iPhone can lead to multiple problems. iPhones are capable of, as you all know, replicating data across 4 or 5 different devices. So I can see, we have a customer who, they don't understand the logic. So when they send us critical information, it comes in an encrypted file, and they then text the password encryption, the encrypted password in plain text to one of our technicians' personal mobile phones. It's an iPhone, which means that that email can be seen on his iPad and any other iDevice that he's got. So if somebody steals his iPad rather than his iPhone, they've got immediate access to what was on his iPhone. And if he's downloading his emails through his iPhone as well, the hacker has got access to the encrypted information and the password on the same device. The normal world doesn't seem to understand some of the simple things that the benefits of mobile technology make possible for hackers. Not necessarily for hackers looking deliberately to take advantage, but because of how it works and how insecure it really is. So what do we do about technology? That was a bit quick. Mobile device encryption, frankly, is a must. The Information Commissioner says, lose a mobile device with personal data on it, you should just kind of ask us to send you a fine right now, because that's what's coming your way. It's egregious negligence to have personal information on a mobile device which is not encrypted. So mobile phones, iPads, if you like to have personal information on them, encryption should just be a basic thing that you do. You don't have to install encryption technology. Many mobile devices come with built-in encryption. Do remember, though, that some devices built-in encryption, when you think that you're wiping the device, you're actually not wiping the device. You're just making it difficult for anybody other than someone who's good at it to access the information. The only way to take information off is to destroy it. Mobile phones, iPads, memory disks, all of those should be encrypted, as should email. Organizations with mobile devices, I think that central mobile device management is a must. I can't see any way in which, whether you're allowing people to bring their own disaster or choose their own device or whatever it is, that you cannot have some form of central device management. You have to be able to remotely wipe devices. You have to have secure browsing and sandboxed apps, because you can't control, without a great deal of pain for the staff, what it is they're going to access and download. and you can't control the smartness and quality of attackers. How many of you have seen the emails coming from a hacker who is telling you that you've successfully managed to book 5 seats, or whatever it is, for a pantomime in Brighton at Christmas? Okay, it's outstanding. It took me about 5 minutes to work out that it couldn't possibly be me. I sit there and look at things and try, because I know it's not me because I didn't order them. My memory is ropey, but I'm sure I hadn't ordered them. But it was so good as an email. It was so authentic that a lot of people will have opened it. And I didn't get 100 of them, I got 2. The arrival of the second one was what told me my guess was right at the first one. Outstandingly good phishing emails. More and more people who are not aware of what phishing is about are getting caught by emails because attackers are getting smarter and smarter. And why wouldn't you? It's a lot easier to steal money remotely than it is to do the old-fashioned thing with hammers and socks. So you have to have anti-malware protection. You have to have all of those things in an enterprise, I think, as basic. 50% of large organizations, according to the government's last survey, have implemented some form of mobile device management. 50% of UK organizations, in other words, have not implemented some form of mobile device management. Only 29% of small organizations and 23% of large organizations have recognized that staff need to understand what threats might look like and have trained staff appropriately. If staff don't know what a threat is going to look like and they're accessing Facebook or Twitter or the cloud, they've no idea whether the website they're logging on to is really a secure website or not. They've no idea whether the thing that pops up and says you need to update your Java application is real or not. If you don't train staff, you're asking for trouble. But the device interoperability issue is a much more significant one. What's happening in the cloud and the range of unprotected devices, wearable computers. You know, it's going to be probably a year before the first reports come out of people losing wearable watches which have got critical information about their health on them. And then people going, gosh, why didn't we think of the security issues around wearable computing? And there'll be other issues. I'm not smart enough to think of what bad people might do with the information which is available on a watch that somebody will take off when they go swimming, because they're not designed to be waterproof. So you leave it on the beach with that information on it, which includes the email arriving on your telephone and the chat arriving on your telephone. That all arrives on your watch. So you've got a nicely secured, encrypted iPhone or whatever you're using, but this talks to it, so it arrives in your encrypted phone. Your phone's lying on the towel, and somebody can read the messages coming in. Dead handy. Who would think about how do we encrypt the wearable computer? If you lose a LiveScribe pen, which is carrying all the notes you've made about what you're planning to do in this next takeover, then what sort of a problem have you got? You're the chief executive and you love this idea of being able to write stuff, because this whole typing business you still haven't fully got to grips with. So you can write stuff and it gets uploaded to your iPad and it becomes searchable and turned into text. Brilliant. And then you lose the pen. So you've lost the information because you don't have it other than in the scribbles on the pieces of paper, which you might have thrown away being security conscious, torn it up and shredded it. And somebody else has got the pen and you don't. So the clash between confidentiality, integrity, availability, which goes on across information security and cybersecurity management environments all the time, is even more important when we're talking about mobile device and mobile device security. The reality is that mobile devices have made life hugely simpler for staff. People can talk to customers, they can negotiate deals from all over the world. My wife, I have to say, thinks it's completely balmy. She has this idea about how destroying my BlackBerry would be the thing to do, but I say to her, the fact that we can go on holiday and I can still work means that we can go on holiday. Because if I couldn't work while I was on holiday, we're just not going. There's too much to do. So you can keep on top of stuff from the beach. You can do deals from an exhibition. You can talk to customers. Mobile technology is a hugely beneficial thing for individuals, for staff, for customers, for suppliers, because it enables you to operate on an ongoing basis. Yes, I know that in France they've got this brilliant idea about how it should be legal for your boss to phone you on your mobile phone after hours, but then you look at the French economy and you begin to see what's really going on there. You've got a whole bunch of new emerging technologies that we don't yet know about, but you think about the ubiquity of tiny chips with more and more information on them, the power of optical computing, the power of quantum computing. What does that do to enable people to be independent, move around, and deal with what they want to deal with? Hack the human is kind of, hack the human is increasingly what attackers do. Technology is well done. So let's just break into human beings' heads. You can buy books on how to hack the human, and you've got to deal with the reality as an enterprise, as an organization, that staff haven't just got half a dozen things they want to access. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of websites and social media services that are useful and helpful to them. And the more you create barriers for them between what they can do on their work phone or their work device and what they have to have their home device for, the less you get the benefits out of mobile technology. The benefits of mobile technology come with the bring your own disaster option. They come with people being able to use one device to do everything, but that only works if you can find ways of dealing with all the security issues, confidentiality and integrity on one hand, and availability on the other. ISO 27001, and I'm deliberately taking a bit longer because I know you haven't got another speaker, so I'm trying to make sure you get a proper value out of the final session of the day. ISO 27001 gives you a management system that enables you to draw on best practice for how might we tackle in an organization the range of threats that there are in a way that also looks at availability. ISO 27001 says you should select controls on the basis of a risk assessment, and you should implement them in a way that's appropriate for your organization. And the starting point where mobile security is concerned is user responsibility. So for us, the starting point with mobile device policy is users signing user agreements that set out very clearly what they're responsible for doing, set out what they're required to demonstrate, and which is auditable, and which, if they fail to do it, can lead to them being fired. So it's gross misconduct, for instance, to not allow anti-malware software to install on a mobile device. So that's kind of a logical starting point from a management system point of view to dealing with mobile insecurity. The second thing is staff awareness training. All staff believe, just as I'm sure most of you do, that it will never happen to you. You're never actually going to have a compromise of your mobile device. You're never actually going to have the significant issues or problems that go with those type of attacks, but people do. 25,000 mobile phones are lost or stolen in London every week. It happens to people. Sooner or later, it's going to happen to you. And so training has to be built around examples of what can happen and how, as an individual, you can act responsibility to avoid it happening. 54% of organizations, excitingly, see their own staff as a greater risk than they see outside attackers. 32% of staff don't provide any ongoing security training to their staff at all, and then they're shocked and surprised when there is a major issue around a mobile phone. You have to monitor what's going on. If you're going to give people responsibility, which I believe you have to do what Ronald Reagan called trust but verify. You have to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You have to monitor activity. You have to look for where people are falling adrift from the standards and things that you require of them. 85% of breaches took weeks to discover. That's a really effective bit of monitoring. Most IT people, when I speak to them, I say, how good is your security monitoring? They say, first class. 85% of breaches took weeks to discover across all of the breaches in UK businesses in the last 12 months. 20% of organizations don't actually know whether they've been breached or not. The answer, therefore, is that they have been. Do you have documented procedures in place to deal with incident response? And incident response is not just, I've lost my iPad. Incident response is the whole range of things that can go wrong, from a man-in-the-middle attack getting escalated to a denial of service attack in a web browser getting escalated to something which runs the risk of closing the business down. All of it mobile device related. You need to have an incident response plan. It's part of sensible planning. And the government, in recognition of, and I promise you this is the last section of what I have to say, in recognition of the range of basic challenges that organizations face, has come up with something called the Cyber Essentials Scheme. And the Cyber Essentials Scheme says that it's possible to deal with most basic problems by putting 5 basic controls in place. That's not the same as being able to deal with sophisticated attacks, but there are 5 basic controls, or if you like, 5 basic cyber hygiene steps that any organization can take, which will significantly reduce the number of opportunistic attacks, significantly reduce the number of compromised devices, and part of the controls looks at secure configuration of mobile devices as well as of desktops, looks at patch management and malware protection. The Cyber Essentials Scheme has 2 levels. There's a basic level, and it's a certification scheme. So in other words, you do what the standard says you must do, and you can get a certificate from an external certification body, which government says from the 1st of October, it's going to be requiring from all suppliers entering into contracts for the first time. So we expect to see it come into force for G-Cloud, for levels at sort of IL1, IL2 and IL3 will still be there. And it's got a Cyber Essentials Plus, which involves an on-site test of the configuration of desktop and essentially mobile devices to make sure that secure configurations are in place. You can read about the Cyber Essentials Scheme. IT Governance, of course, is a Cyber Essentials certification body. And it's the kind of scheme or certificate which you should add to existing security management systems. Vodafone, who we did the Cyber Essentials certification for, have done that as well as everything else, not because they didn't think they were doing it, but because they thought it was an important part of demonstrating that they've got the basic controls in place. The pocket guide is I think, a less than £4 guide to how you can tackle cyber essentials. And of course, the business benefits, and organizations can see the benefits around survival, around winning contracts, around protecting jobs, all sit there in making sure that your basic cyber hygiene is up to scratch. It's a bit like saying, let's make sure that we lock the doors when we go away on holiday. Let's make sure that the windows are locked and that we've told a neighbor that we're away. There are 3 options through IT Governance for certification. You can do it yourself, you can get a little help, you can get a lot of help, and they come with some pretty clear fixed prices depending on the organization and how you want to do it. So do it yourself comes in at the huge amount of money. I think about £400 at the Cyber Essentials level, £1,100 at Cyber Essentials Plus. Get a little help. Don't have time to do it, it's a bit difficult. Again, fixed prices at £900 and £1,600 for the more advanced Cyber Essentials Plus, and get a lot of help. Somebody got to hold our hand, do it for us, comes in at marginally more. But for most organizations, I'm sure you would agree, getting the best of the currently available options, Cyber Essentials Plus with a lot of help for an organization like, of any size for less than £2,000 is a kind of pay nothing to make sure that your basic cyber hygiene is in place. And the key message which I'd like to leave you with is that for everybody working in technology and information security, getting the message out that it's not just about technology. It is about training. It is about basic cyber controls, but it is about management getting committed to and supporting the work which everybody in IT and security does to make devices not just safe, but information available to people inside the organization. Which brings me to the end, ladies and gentlemen, questions.
Any final questions for Alan on the back of that? Excellent. Thank you very much, Alan. Really, really good presentation.